Emily's hand trembled as she gripped the restaurant's back door handle, her heart pounding in her chest. The cool October night air hit her face, but it couldn't wash away the dread that had been suffocating her all evening. She'd made it through another shift, serving tables with a smile while her world crumbled behind her carefully maintained facade. "There you are." The voice behind her made her blood freeze. Logan's silhouette emerged from the shadows near the parking lot, his expensive cologne mixing with the smell of cigarettes. At 42, he carried himself with the arrogance of a man who believed money could buy anything, including her. "I told you I'd pick you up," he said, his tone carrying that familiar edge that made her skin crawl. "Your mother said you've been having second thoughts about our arrangement." Emily's throat went dry. The wedding was in 2 days. 2 days until she'd be trapped forever with a man she didn't love, didn't trust, and frankly feared. She turned slowly to face him, her green eyes meeting his cold gray ones. "Logan, You what?" He stepped closer, invading her personal space. "You think you can just walk away from this, after everything your family owes me?" To follow Emily's story and see how this dramatic encounter unfolds, join our community. Our goal is to reach 5,000 subscribers, and your support makes all the difference. Subscribe now and let us know in the comments where you're listening from. The day had started like any other hellish day in Emily's life, but she hadn't known it would be the day everything changed. She'd woken up in the cramped apartment she shared with her mother Olivia and younger sister Sarah in Brooklyn's less favorable neighborhoods. The peeling wallpaper and leaky faucet were constant reminders of their financial struggles, but Emily had learned to find beauty in small things. Sarah's laughter, the morning sun filtering through their thin curtains, the coffee she splurged on once a week. "Emily, we need to talk." Her mother's voice had cut through the morning quiet like a knife. Olivia Martinez had once been beautiful, but years of financial stress and poor choices had hardened her features. At 45, she looked older, her dark hair streaked with premature gray, her brown eyes sharp with desperation. "The wedding dress fitting is at 3, Olivia continued, not looking up from her coffee. "Logan's already paid for everything. The flowers, the venue, the catering." Emily's stomach churned. "Mama, please, I can't go through with this." "You can and you will." Olivia's voice was ice. "Do you see where we live, Emily? Do you see your sister wearing second-hand clothes to school? Logan can change all of that. But I don't love him." "Love?" Olivia laughed bitterly. "Love doesn't pay rent. Love doesn't put food on the table. Logan owns 3 successful companies and has more money than we could spend in a lifetime." Emily thought about Sarah, her 18-year-old sister, who dreamed of attending college but would probably never afford it. Sarah had been born with a minor heart condition that required expensive monitoring and would eventually need a procedure. Not life-threatening, but costly. The guilt gnawed at Emily constantly. "He's 20 years older than me," Emily whispered. "So what? He'll take care of you. Give you a life I never could." Emily had left for work with tears in her eyes and a weight in her chest that felt like it might crush her. Giuseppe's Italian restaurant was her sanctuary. She'd worked there for 3 years, ever since she was 19, and had built genuine relationships with both the staff and regular customers. The owner, an elderly Italian man named Giuseppe, treated her like a granddaughter. The other waitresses had become her chosen family. "You look terrible, honey," said Maria, a fellow waitress with kind eyes and graying temples. "Rough night?" "Something like that," Emily managed, tying her black apron around her waist. The dinner rush had been particularly brutal. Emily forced herself to smile, to chat with customers, to pretend her world wasn't falling apart. She was good at pretending. She'd had years of practice. It was nearly 10 p.m. when the last table cleared out. Emily was wiping down tables when she noticed 2 men at a corner booth she'd somehow missed. One was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and an expensive suit. The other was younger, probably in his early 30s, with dark hair and the kind of presence that made people notice him, even when he wasn't trying. "I'm so sorry, gentlemen. I didn't realize anyone was still here." Emily approached their table with professional grace despite her exhaustion. The younger man looked up at her, and Emily felt something shift in her chest. His eyes were the deepest brown she'd ever seen, framed by dark lashes. His features were sharp, defined with a 5 o'clock shadow that suggested he'd had a long day. When he smiled, it was genuine, not the predatory grin she'd grown accustomed to from Logan. "No worries at all," he said, his voice carrying a slight rasp. "We were just finishing up. The food was excellent. Thank you, I'll let Giuseppe know. Can I get you anything else? Dessert? Coffee? Just the check, the older man replied kindly. As Emily processed their payment, she couldn't help but notice the younger man's hands, strong with expensive jewelry that suggested wealth but wasn't ostentatious. There was something about him that radiated quiet confidence, the kind that came from real power, rather than the need to display it. Keep the change, he said, handing her $300 bills for a $70 meal. Emily's eyes widened. Sir, this is too much. You've had a long night. You deserve it. There was something in his tone, a gentleness that made her throat tight with unexpected emotion. When was the last time someone had been kind to her without wanting something in return? Thank you, she whispered, meaning it more than he could know. As they left, the younger man paused at the door and looked back at her. Take care of yourself, he said, and Emily felt like he could see right through her brave facade. But her moment of peace was shattered the moment she stepped outside. I told you I'd pick you up. Logan's voice cut through the night air like a blade. Emily's heart sank as she saw him leaning against his black BMW, a cigarette dangling from his fingers. Everything about Logan screamed new money, the flashy car, the gold watch, the expensive but tasteless clothing. At 42, he carried himself with the arrogance of a man who believed everything had a price, including people. I can take the subway home, Emily said, trying to keep her voice steady. The subway? Logan laughed, but there was no humor in it. My fiancé doesn't take the subway. It's beneath you now. Logan, we need to talk about what? About the cold feet your mother warned me you might have? He flicked his cigarette to the ground and stepped closer. Let me make something very clear, Emily. I've invested a lot of money in this wedding. In you. In your family's future. I'm not about to let a naive girl ruin everything because she's got some romantic notions about love. Emily backed away until she hit the brick wall of the restaurant. I can't marry you. I don't love you. Logan's face darkened. Love is a luxury you can't afford. Your mother owes me money, Emily. A lot of money. The rent I've been paying for your apartment, the medical bills for your sister's condition, the groceries I've been sending over. Did you think that was charity? Emily's blood went cold. What are you talking about? Your mother came to me 6 months ago, desperate. She borrowed $50,000, Emily. With interest, that debt is now nearly $75,000. The wedding pays that off. You pay that off. You're lying. But even as she said it, Emily felt the truth settling in her stomach like a stone. Her mother's sudden optimism about their finances, the way bills had mysteriously stopped arriving, Logan's increasing presence in their lives, it all made horrible sense. Ask her yourself, Logan said, pulling out his phone. Or better yet, don't. Just accept that this is happening and make it easier on everyone. He reached for her arm, his grip tight enough to bruise. Now come on. We need to discuss the honeymoon arrangements. Let go of me, Emily said, trying to pull away. You belong to me now, Emily. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be. That's when she heard the voice that would change everything. I believe the lady asked you to let her go. Both Emily and Logan turned to see the younger man from the restaurant walking toward them. Up close, Emily could see he was even more striking than she'd initially thought. Tall, probably 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled out his expensive black suit perfectly. But it wasn't his physical presence that made Logan immediately step back. It was something else, something that radiated from him like heat from a fire. Power. Real power. This is none of your business, Logan said, but his voice had lost its confidence. The man's smile was polite but cold. When I see someone being manhandled outside my father's restaurant, it becomes my business. Your father's restaurant? Logan's face paled slightly. Anthony Giuseppe Romano, he said, extending his hand to Emily with old-world courtesy. And you are? Emily, she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily, Anthony repeated, as if testing how her name sounded. A beautiful name for a beautiful woman. Logan's grip on Emily's arm tightened. Look, we don't want any trouble. This is just a misunderstanding between my fiancé and me. Anthony's dark eyes shifted to Logan, and Emily felt a chill run down her spine at the change in his expression. Fiancé? His gaze moved to Emily's left hand, noting the absence of an engagement ring. Interesting. Emily, is this man your fiancé? Emily looked between Logan's furious face and Anthony's calm, patient expression. Something in Anthony's demeanor gave her courage she didn't know she possessed. No, she said quietly. He's not. Logan's face flushed red. Emily, don't be stupid. You know what's at stake here? What's at stake? Anthony asked, his voice deceptively casual. Her family owes me money. A lot of money. This marriage is how she's going to pay it back. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Anthony took a step closer to Logan, and Emily watched something shift in his posture, something dangerous and predatory. So are you telling me, Anthony said, his voice soft but carrying an unmistakable threat, that you're attempting to purchase a human being? It's not like that. Because where I come from, we have a very specific way of dealing with men who traffic in people. Logan released Emily's arm so quickly she stumbled slightly. Anthony was immediately there, his hand on her elbow to steady her, his touch gentle but protective. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Logan said, backing away. Emily, we'll discuss this later. No, Anthony said simply. You won't. Something in his tone made Logan freeze. Who the hell are you? Anthony smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm someone you don't want to cross. I suggest you leave. Now. Logan looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Anthony's stance, the quiet confidence, the way he carried himself, the expensive watch and perfectly tailored suit that spoke of real money and real power, made him think twice. This isn't over, Emily, Logan said, but he was already backing toward his car. Yes, Anthony said softly. It is. They watched Logan drive away, his tires squealing against the asphalt in his haste to leave. Emily realized she was shaking. The adrenaline of the confrontation, combined with the emotional weight of the day, finally crashed over her. Tears she'd been holding back all day began to fall. Hey, Anthony said gently, you're safe now. Anthony's voice was impossibly gentle as he guided Emily to a nearby bench. The October night was cool, but Emily felt warm in his presence, protected in a way she hadn't felt in months. Thank you, she whispered, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I'm sorry you had to see that. Don't apologize. You have nothing to be sorry for. Anthony sat beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. Do you want to tell me what's really going on? Emily found herself wanting to confide in this stranger in a way that surprised her. There was something about Anthony that made her feel safe, truly safe, for the first time in months. My mother, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. She made some kind of deal with him, borrowed money. I didn't know about it until tonight. And the payment for this debt is you. Emily nodded, fresh tears spilling over. She says it's for the family, that Logan can give us a better life, but I don't love him, and honestly, he scares me. Anthony's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Has he ever hurt you? Not physically, but the way he looks at me, talks to me, like I'm something he owns. Tonight was the first time he grabbed me like that. It would have been the last, Anthony said quietly, and Emily believed him completely. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Emily spoke again. I'm sorry for dumping this on you. You don't even know me. Sometimes strangers are the easiest people to talk to, Anthony said. No judgment, no agenda. Emily looked at him carefully. You said this was your father's restaurant. Anthony nodded. Giuseppe is my father. I've been helping him run it for the past few years, along with our other businesses. Other businesses? My family has several restaurants, some real estate, import-export. His description was vague, but Emily sensed there was more to it. What about you? How long have you been working at Giuseppe's? 3 years. It's been like a second home to me. My father speaks highly of you. He says you're one of the hardest workers he's ever had. Emily smiled through her tears. Giuseppe is like a grandfather to me. This job saved my life when I needed it most. Anthony studied her face in the glow of the streetlight. What would you do if this debt disappeared? If you were free to make your own choices? I'd work, save money, help my sister get into college, maybe take some classes myself someday. Emily laughed softly. It sounds silly when I say it out loud. It doesn't sound silly at all. It sounds like you know exactly what you want from life. What about you? What do you want? Anthony was quiet for a long moment, as if considering how honest to be. I want to build something lasting. Something that matters. I want to protect the people I care about and make sure they never have to compromise their happiness for survival. There was something in his voice that made Emily look at him more carefully. You sound like someone who's had to make those compromises before. Something like that. Anthony's phone buzzed and he glanced at it quickly. Emily, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Okay. How much do you really know about Logan? About his business? Emily frowned. Not much. He says he owns companies, but he's always vague about the details. Why? Anthony was quiet for a moment, as if weighing his words carefully. I have some connections in the business world. Would you be okay if I looked into him? Just to make sure you're making an informed decision. You'd do that. Emily, what I witnessed tonight, a grown man trying to force a young woman into marriage to settle a debt, that's not business. That's coercion. If he's doing this to you, he might be doing it to others. Emily felt a chill run down her spine. You think he's done this before? I think men who treat people as property rarely limit themselves to one victim. The weight of Anthony's words settled over Emily. What if you find something? What then? Then we make sure he can't hurt you or anyone else ever again. There was something in Anthony's tone that suggested he had more power than he was letting on. Are you offering to help me? I'm offering to protect you, Anthony said simply. No strings attached, no debt, no obligation. Just one human being helping another because it's the right thing to do. Emily stared at him in wonder. After months of feeling trapped and powerless, here was someone offering her a way out with no conditions. Why? She whispered. Why would you help someone you just met? Anthony was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her face. Because everyone deserves to choose their own path, and because... He paused, as if surprised by his own honesty. Because I've never met anyone quite like you, Emily. Emily felt her heart skip a beat. What do you mean? You've been backed into an impossible corner, pressured by your family, threatened by this man, and yet when I asked if he was your fiancé, you found the courage to say no. That takes incredible strength. I don't feel strong. The strongest people rarely do. Anthony stood and extended his hand to help her up. Come on, let me drive you home. We can talk more tomorrow if you'd like. Emily looked at his outstretched hand, then up at his face. Something in his expression, kind, patient, protective, made her decision easy. She took his hand. The next morning brought a phone call that changed everything. Emily woke to her phone ringing insistently. Anthony's name appeared on the screen. He'd insisted on giving her his number the night before, in case Logan caused any more trouble. Hello? Emily answered, still groggy from the first decent night's sleep she'd had in weeks. Emily, we need to talk. Can you meet me at Giuseppe's in an hour? Something in Anthony's tone made her sit up straighter. Is everything okay? I found some information about Logan. Information you need to see. An hour later, Emily sat across from Anthony in a quiet corner booth at Giuseppe's. The lunch rush wouldn't start for hours, giving them privacy. Anthony had a manila folder in front of him that he seemed reluctant to open. Before I show you this, he said carefully, I need you to know that whatever you decide to do with this information is entirely up to you. I'm not trying to influence your decision. I just want you to have all the facts. Emily's stomach knotted with anxiety. It's bad, isn't it? It's worse than I expected. Anthony opened the folder. Logan Matthews has been under investigation by the FBI for the past 2 years. Emily's breath caught. For what? Money laundering, tax evasion, and human trafficking. The words hit Emily like a physical blow. Human trafficking. He's been running a scheme where he targets young women from financially desperate families. He offers to pay off their debts in exchange for marriage, then uses the marriages to clean his illegal money and gain access to new victims through his wives' social circles. Emily felt sick. Other women? Anthony slid a photograph across the table. It showed Logan at what appeared to be a party, his arm around a young woman who looked terrified. This is Rebecca Chen. She was 21 when she married Logan 3 years ago. She disappeared 6 months later. Police report says she left voluntarily, but her family hasn't heard from her since. Another photograph. Maria Santos, 19 when she married Logan 4 years ago, also disappeared. Oh my God. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. There are 5 women total. All young, all from poor families, all married to Logan to settle family debts. All missing. Emily was shaking now. I could have been... No, Anthony said firmly, reaching across the table to cover her hand with his. You're not going to be. I won't let that happen. What can we do? If the FBI has been investigating for 2 years and he's still free, the FBI has been building their case carefully. They want to make sure it sticks. But this, he gestured to the photos. This gives us enough to get a restraining order and criminal charges filed immediately. Emily stared at the evidence in front of her, pieces clicking together in her mind. He was so confident, so sure I couldn't say no. He's done this before. Many times, I suspect. My mother, Emily's voice broke. She doesn't know, does she? She couldn't have known. I don't think so. Logan is very good at presenting himself as a legitimate businessman. Your mother probably thought she was securing your future. Emily felt tears welling up again, but this time they were tears of relief mixed with horror. What happens now? Now, we call the police. We file a report about his threats and coercive behavior. We turn over this evidence to the FBI agent who's been working the case. Anthony paused. And we make sure you and your family are protected while they arrest him. Protected. Emily, when Logan realizes his scheme has been exposed, he might get desperate. I want to make sure you're safe. Something in Anthony's tone made Emily look at him more carefully. You're not just a restaurant owner, are you? Anthony was quiet for a long moment. My family has connections. We've built our businesses in a world where protection sometimes means more than just legal remedies. Emily felt her breath catch. Are you saying you're... I'm saying I have the resources to make sure Logan never hurts you or anyone else. Through legal channels, he added quickly. I believe in justice, Emily. Real justice. And in return, you want... Nothing, Anthony said simply. I want nothing in return except the satisfaction of knowing a predator has been stopped, and you're free to live your life on your own terms. Emily studied his face, looking for deception, for the catch she'd learned to expect from men offering help. But all she saw was sincerity, and something that looked like genuine caring. Why do I matter to you? She whispered. You've known me for less than 24 hours. Anthony was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching her face. Do you believe in fate, Emily? I don't know. Maybe. I've spent my entire adult life building walls, keeping people at a distance, focusing only on business and family obligations. And then last night, I watched you serve tables with grace and kindness, despite obviously carrying some heavy burden. I watched you stand up to a man twice your size when you found your courage, and I realized... He paused, as if surprised by his own admission. I realized I've been waiting my whole life to meet someone exactly like you. Emily felt her heart stop. Anthony, I'm not asking for anything, Emily. I'm just telling you the truth. Whatever happens with Logan, whatever you decide about your future, I want you to know that meeting you has changed something in me. Before Emily could respond, Anthony's phone rang. He glanced at it and his expression became serious. It's my contact at the FBI, he said. They've been watching Logan's movements. Emily, he looked directly into her eyes. They're planning to arrest him today. But first, they need your statement. Emily took a deep breath, feeling stronger than she had in months. Then let's give them everything they need to put him away forever. 3 hours later, Logan Matthews was in federal custody. Emily sat in a conference room at the FBI field office, having just finished giving her statement to Agent Sarah Crawford, the lead investigator on the case. Anthony had insisted on calling one of the city's best lawyers to accompany Emily, ensuring she was fully protected throughout the process. Ms. Martinez, your testimony has been crucial, Agent Crawford said, closing her notebook. Logan's arrest today is largely thanks to your courage in coming forward. What happens now? Emily asked. Logan will be formally charged with multiple federal crimes, including human trafficking, money laundering, and coercion. With the evidence we have, including your testimony and financial records we've been gathering, he's looking at 25 to life. Emily felt a weight lift from her shoulders that she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying. Anthony, who had been quietly sitting beside her throughout the process, spoke up. What about Emily's safety, if Logan has associates who might retaliate? We've considered that, Agent Crawford replied. Logan was a relatively small player who worked alone for the most part. His arrest has already led to the recovery of one of the missing women. Rebecca Chen was found at a property Logan owned in upstate New York. She's safe and reunited with her family. Emily gasped. She's alive? Alive and willing to testify. Your bravery today may have saved her life and the lives of other potential victims. As they left the FBI office, Emily felt like she was walking into a completely new life. The October sun seemed brighter, the air cleaner, the future full of possibilities she'd never dared to imagine. How do you feel? Anthony asked as they walked to his car. Free, Emily said, and then laughed at how simple and profound that word sounded. For the first time in months, I feel free. Anthony smiled, and Emily noticed how the expression transformed his entire face, making him look younger and less guarded. What will you tell your mother? He asked. Emily sighed. The truth. About Logan, about the debt, about everything. She needs to know what kind of man she almost sold me to. That won't be an easy conversation. No, but it's necessary. Emily looked at Anthony curiously. What about your family? Won't they wonder why you got involved in all this? Anthony was quiet for a moment as he started the car. My father always taught me that with power comes responsibility. When you have the ability to help someone, you have the obligation to do so. Is that the only reason you helped me? Anthony pulled out of the parking space and into traffic before answering. At first, maybe, but Emily... He glanced at her, then back at the road. I meant what I said earlier. Meeting you has changed something in me. Emily felt her heart flutter. Changed how? I've spent so much of my life focused on duty, on family business, on maintaining the legacy my father built. I've never taken time for personal happiness, for my own wants and needs. But when I look at you... He paused at a red light and turned to face her fully. When I look at you, I remember what it feels like to want something just for myself. Anthony, Emily's voice was barely a whisper. I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other for a day, but I also know that I've never felt this way about anyone before. The light turned green, but neither of them moved for a moment, caught in the intensity of the moment. What are you saying? Emily asked. I'm saying that I'd like the chance to get to know you better. Not as someone you owe a debt to, not as someone doing you a favor, but as a man who's interested in an extraordinary woman. Emily's heart was racing now. But your world and mine, they're so different. Are they? We both value family, loyalty, hard work. We both believe in standing up for what's right. Anthony smiled. Besides, my father started with nothing. He came to this country with empty pockets and built everything through determination and hard work. Not so different from your story. As they drove through the city, Emily found herself really looking at Anthony for the first time, without the cloud of fear and desperation that had dominated her thoughts since yesterday. He was incredibly handsome, but more than that, he was kind. He was powerful, but he used that power to protect people rather than exploit them. He was wealthy, but he didn't flaunt it or use it to make others feel small. Can I ask you something? Emily said. You said your family has businesses, connections. Are you... She struggled with how to phrase the question. Am I what, Emily? Are you involved in anything illegal? Anthony considered his answer carefully. My family operates in a grey area sometimes. We have influence, we have power, and we use both to protect our interests and the interests of people we care about. But we have rules. We don't hurt innocent people. We don't deal in drugs. We don't exploit women or children. What we did today, stopping Logan, that's exactly the kind of thing my family's power is meant for. Emily absorbed this information. So you're not exactly a traditional businessman? No, Anthony admitted, but I'm also not the kind of man who would ever hurt you or use you. I want you to know that, Emily. Whatever develops between us, if anything develops, it will be because you choose it freely. They pulled up in front of Emily's building, and she realized she didn't want the day to end. Would you like to come up? Meet my mother and sister? Emily asked, then immediately worried she was being too forward. I'd be honored, Anthony replied. As they climbed the stairs to Emily's apartment, she felt nervous but excited. Everything about her life was about to change, and for the first time, that change felt like hope rather than fear. The confrontation with her mother was emotional, but ultimately healing. Olivia broke down when Emily explained about Logan's crimes, horrified that her desperation had nearly cost her daughter everything. Anthony, with quiet dignity, assured both women that the debt Logan claimed they owed would be handled, not by him, but through the legal restitution process as part of Logan's criminal case. Sarah, Emily's sister, was suspicious of Anthony at first, but warmed up when she realized he had no ulterior motives. When he mentioned that his family's scholarship fund was always looking for deserving students, Sarah's face lit up with hope Emily hadn't seen in years. As Anthony prepared to leave that evening, he paused at the door. Emily, I have a proposition for you. What kind of proposition? Emily asked, though her tone suggested she was open to hearing it. Giuseppe's has been talking about expanding, opening a second location. It would need a manager, someone who knows the business, understands customer service, and has the integrity to handle the financial responsibilities. Anthony paused. The position pays 3 times what you're making now, includes health insurance, and would give you the experience you'd need if you ever wanted to open your own place someday. Emily stared at him in shock. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a career, and the independence to choose your own path. But why would you? Because you've earned it. Because you're smart and hard-working and deserve the opportunity. And because, Anthony smiled, because I'd like you to stick around long enough for me to properly court you. Emily laughed, feeling giddy with possibility. Court me? Old-fashioned, I know, but I believe in doing things right. Dinner dates, long conversations, getting to know each other without any pressure or expectations. Just two people seeing if they're compatible. And if we are? Then maybe we build something beautiful together. Emily looked into his dark eyes and saw sincerity, hope, and something that looked very much like love. For the first time in her adult life, her future felt wide open with possibility. Okay, she said softly. Okay to the job, or okay to letting me court you? Emily smiled, feeling braver than she ever had before. Both. 2 years later, Emily stood in the kitchen of Romano's second location, watching the dinner rush with a sense of pride and accomplishment that still surprised her sometimes. As the restaurant's general manager, she had turned Giuseppe's vision into reality, creating a warm, welcoming space that had quickly become one of Brooklyn's most popular dining destinations. Everything looks perfect, Anthony's voice came from behind her, and Emily turned to see him entering the kitchen with that smile that still made her heart skip a beat. The reservation list is completely full for the next 3 weeks, Emily reported, trying to maintain her professional demeanor despite the way Anthony was looking at her. And how's our manager handling the success? Anthony asked, moving closer. She's thinking about expansion, Emily said with a grin. Maybe Manhattan next. Over the past 2 years, Emily and Anthony had built something neither of them had expected. A partnership that was both professional and deeply personal. Anthony had been true to his word about courting her properly. Their relationship had developed slowly, built on shared values, genuine respect, and a love that grew stronger every day. Emily had flourished in ways she'd never imagined possible. The job Anthony offered had been just the beginning. With his encouragement and support, she'd taken business courses at night, learning about finance, marketing, and operations management. She'd discovered a natural talent for leadership and a passion for hospitality that made her exceptional at her work. More importantly, she'd learned to trust again, not just Anthony but herself. Her confidence had grown along with her skills, and she now carried herself with the quiet authority of someone who knew her own worth. Sarah was thriving in her second year of college, her tuition covered by the Romano Family Scholarship Fund. Her heart condition had been successfully treated with a procedure that had cost less than Emily had feared, especially with the excellent insurance from her new job. Olivia had used the settlement money from Logan's criminal case to open a small catering business, finally finding the independence and self-respect she'd been seeking all along. Logan himself was serving a 25-year federal sentence. The 5 women he'd victimized had all been found, some through the investigation, others who came forward after his arrest. Rebecca Chen had become a close friend of Emily's, bonding over their shared experience and their determination to help other women in similar situations. "You're thinking awfully hard about something," Anthony observed, stepping close enough that Emily could smell his cologne, the same one he'd worn that first night, now forever associated with safety and love in her mind. "I'm thinking about how different my life is now," Emily said honestly. 2 years ago I thought my future was set in stone. Now I feel like anything is possible." Anthony cupped her face gently in his hands. "That's because anything is possible. You've built something incredible here, Emily. Giuseppe's second location is successful because of your vision and hard work, not because of anything I did. You gave me the opportunity. I offered you a job. You turned it into a career and a calling. There's a difference." Emily leaned into his touch, marveling at how safe and loved she felt. Their relationship had developed gradually, built on genuine friendship and mutual respect before blossoming into romance. Anthony had proven over and over that his love came without conditions or expectations. He supported her dreams, celebrated her successes, and never tried to control or change her. "Anthony," she said softly, "I have something I want to tell you." "What's that, beautiful?" "I love you. Not just because you saved me from Logan, not just because you've given me opportunities, but because of who you are. Because you're kind and generous and strong. Because you make me laugh and challenge me to be better. Because when I imagine my future, I can't picture it without you." Anthony's smile was radiant. Emily Martinez, I have been completely, utterly, hopelessly in love with you since the night I saw you stand up to Logan despite being terrified. You are the strongest, most remarkable woman I've ever known, and loving you has been the greatest privilege of my life." Before Emily could respond, Anthony was kissing her with a passion that still made her knees weak after 2 years together. She kissed him back, pouring all her love and gratitude and hope into the gesture. When they finally broke apart, Anthony rested his forehead against hers. "I have something I want to ask you," he said softly. "What's that?" Anthony stepped back and, to Emily's complete shock, dropped to one knee right there in the restaurant kitchen. He pulled out a ring box that made Emily's breath catch, not because of the size of the diamond, though it was beautiful, but because of what it represented. "Emily Martinez," Anthony said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "will you marry me? Not because of debt or obligation or family pressure, but because we choose each other? Because we want to build a life together?" Emily stared at the ring, then at the man who had changed her entire world by simply seeing her worth when she couldn't see it herself. The diamond was perfect, not ostentatious but classic and elegant, exactly what she would have chosen. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, absolutely yes." As Anthony slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her again, Emily heard applause from the dining room. She turned to see Giuseppe, Maria, and several other staff members watching from the kitchen doorway with tears in their eyes and huge smiles on their faces. "About time," Giuseppe called out in his thick Italian accent. "I've been planning your wedding menu for months." Everyone laughed, and Emily felt surrounded by love and support in a way she'd never experienced before. This restaurant, these people, this man, they'd become her chosen family, proof that sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the most unlikely circumstances. Later that night, as she and Anthony sat on the roof of his building, looking out over the city lights, Emily reflected on the journey that had brought them here. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't been at the restaurant that night?" she asked, curled up against his side. "No," Anthony said firmly, "because I believe we would have found each other somehow. Some things are just meant to be." Emily smiled, looking down at her engagement ring sparkling in the moonlight. "I never believed in fate before I met you. And now? Now I think maybe the universe has a plan after all." Anthony kissed the top of her head. "The universe gave us a start, but everything else, your success, our love, our future together, that's all us, Emily. We built this." Emily closed her eyes and let herself feel completely, perfectly happy. She'd gone from feeling like her life was ending to believing it was just beginning. She'd transformed from a victim into a victor, from someone who felt powerless to someone who had built her own empire. But most importantly, she'd learned that real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that empowers rather than diminishes, was possible for her after all. As they sat together planning their future, Emily knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, and that made all the difference in the world. This story of Emily and Anthony's journey from a chance encounter to true love has come to an end. If their tale of transformation, courage, and finding love against all odds touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who believes in second chances. New stories of love, hope, and unexpected beginnings are coming soon. Until next time.